Welcome to New World Now, where host Kim Corbin has compelling conversations with authors published by New World Library. They will discuss their personal journeys and share practical tools we can use to be more aware, mindful, and present in our daily lives. Now, here's your host, Kim Corbin.
Are you tired of feeling overwhelmed from having so much to do? Do you wish you had more time in the day? If you answered yes to either of those questions, then you're going to love the wisdom that my guest today, Helene Segura, aka the Inefficiency Assassin, who also penned a book with that same title, has to offer. The subtitle of the Inefficiency Assassin is Time Management Techniques for Working Smarter, Not Longer. And Helene is a treasure trove of practical ideas and insights for slaying procrastination, distraction, and overwhelm once and for all. As the Inefficiency Assassin, Helene has taught thousands of go-getters to manage stress by regaining control of their chaotic work and personal lives, and she's been featured as an organizational expert in more than 100 media appearances. I've been having great fun experimenting with the quick and easy to implement strategies that Helene offers to help kick chaos to the curb in my own work life, and it's an honor to have her here with me today. So welcome, Helene, and thanks for being here.
Thanks, Kim. I'm excited to be here.
I'd like to start by having you tell us about your title and the title of the book, The Inefficiency Assassin, and how that came to be.
That came to be because a marketing expert one day told me that the title of productivity consultant was entirely too boring. So that led through a process of discovering what do I actually do for clients while I bring them peace? How do I help bring them peace? It's by slaying lost time. And between those questions and some gin and tonic, we came up with the Inefficiency Assassin.
Well, I love it. It's really fun, and I've really enjoyed the book. There's just so much information in there, and I thought it was interesting that you chose to make the subtitle be "Working Smarter, Not Longer," instead of the more commonly used phrase, which is "Working Smarter, Not Harder." Will you tell us about that distinction, please?
Yes. Every client I've ever worked with has been a go-getter. That's the whole reason they want to improve their time. So I joke around with them and I say things like, well, I don't work with slackers, because I don't, because a slacker wouldn't care about how much time they've lost. And every person I've worked with works very hard. They're driven. They want to accomplish some kind of goal. And so that's why I thought it was unrealistic to give the title Working Smarter, Not Harder, because a lot of people out there do want to work harder. They just don't want to work as long at that hard pace.
Yeah, I love that. And just a couple of episodes ago, I had a woman named Yvonne Tolley on to talk about her book, Breaking Up with Busy. Mm-hmm. And at first I was like, I kind of like being busy. And eventually, though, I came to realize through my conversation with her that there's a big difference between busyness and productivity. And I'd love to hear you kind of talk about that distinction.
Yes, and I think that's a huge challenge people have, is wanting to say that they're busy because for some reason it helps them feel more secure or confident or helps them feel more important. But to a lot of people, busy just means they're moving or they're doing something, but it may not be something that's moving them toward a goal. A lot of people stay busy the entire day working on low-hanging fruit that gets them nowhere in their personal life or in their career. So that's why it's much more important to be productive. So yes, you can be actively doing something, but you're doing something that it's moving you toward a goal. And by the way, thinking is doing. So also sitting still and just thinking and planning is also being productive.
Yeah. It was such an aha moment for me that busyness is kind of a state of a mind, and it can almost be something that we're addicted to, just like being go, 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 go without actually that thinking part.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And you are a huge proponent of the importance of having a balance between our work and personal lives. Will you speak a little bit about why that's so important to you?
I feel that if all you do is work all day long, then you actually will not be as productive because you never have that time to recharge. And if you look at neuroscience studies, there's so many brain studies out there that show that if you work for periods of 60 to 90 minutes, those are usually maximum productivity times, and any longer than that, you're actually not working at optimum levels. Just like our cell phones need a chance to recharge for a couple of hours and get those batteries back up, we as humans need that time to recharge as well. So that's why I think that there needs to be some kind of balance in there. And it doesn't have to be the old-fashioned definition of work-life balance where you go to work for 8 hours and you have a personal life for 8 hours and you sleep for 8 hours. That balance can happen throughout the day, flip-flopping between work activities and personal activities. The most important thing to realize is what is your definition of balance, so that way you know what your goal is and what you're working toward.
Yeah, and that's a great segue to my next question, is at the very beginning of the book, you stress the importance of knowing what our top 3 or 4 priorities are in life, in our work lives and our personal lives, and say that writing them down is extremely important. And it was such a simple practice to do, but I found it really valuable. So will you speak a little bit about that and why the writing down piece is so important?
What I found in my client session is that when I ask them about their priorities, they'd say things like, well, duh, I already know what my priorities are. And I said, okay, go ahead and share them with me. But then nothing comes out. You know, they can't state exactly what those priorities are, whether it's for personal or for work. And so we talk about how so many people are chasing their tails, but they don't even know what the bullseye is that they're trying to hit. So if you don't know what that target or that bullseye is, then how do you know how far or how close you are to reaching that? And especially with women, and this is a huge generalization, I realize, but I've also found this in the one-on-one sessions, so many women beat themselves up because they think that they are not accomplishing what they're supposed to, but they haven't even defined what that supposed to is. They haven't defined those priorities, and so they're beating themselves up for nothing. And it's really critical that you write it down because you want to be able to view these priorities every single day, because how you use your time should be based on how much your task that you're about to do is going to be helping you work toward those top 3 work priorities or those top 3 personal priorities.
And I loved also just the idea that once you're clear, like these are the things that are most important to me, then when something comes in that you have to make a decision about, do I want to do this or not? Mm-hmm. It's so helpful to just have those benchmarks and say, okay, this is what's important. And is this going to allow me to do that? I just thought it was a light bulb went off for me about that.
Hooray for light bulbs.
Yes. And you also, in addition to the priorities, write about knowing what your targets are. And we speak a little bit about the difference between a priority and a target.
A priority is that general goal. Let's say we're talking about health, and you say, I would like to eat healthier. That is your priority. That's the goal that you're working toward. But your target is, what measurable goal are you trying to reach? Because eating healthier, you can't really measure that. So a target for that would be, I will eat at restaurants only 4 times a week instead of 10, because you can measure whether or not you're meeting those numbers. Or I will have at least 5 carrot sticks at lunch on Wednesday. Maybe that's your definition of eating healthier. The point is that a target is quantifiable. It has a number, it can be measured, and that way you know how close or how far you are to reaching your goals. Because if there's not a number involved, then you can't really measure how well you're doing.
Right. And in the book you say that it's important that we take our time to save time.
Yes. My father-in-law has a lot of funny sayings, and I have to be careful teasing him about it because I know that means that one day I'm going to do what he does. But he'll say things like, I have a lot of ashes in the fire instead of irons, but he thinks that ashes is perfectly fine. But he also has this great saying where he says, the hurrieder I go, the behinder I get. And that is so true, because when we rush around, we're not really thinking and we're not in the moment. And just like the introduction to the show where you want to be aware and mindful and present, when we're in such a rush and not thinking, then we aren't in those states of mind. We're not in any state of mind. And so that's why it's so important just to slow things down. And the more quality you want in your life, then the more you're going to take a step back and slow it down and think about what it's going to take to get there. Because if you just rush around constantly, you never really get that quality that you want to have.
And you also stress the importance of implementing structure and flow, like the balance between those things. And I loved the quote from Bruce Lee that you shared about that it's important to be like water. Will you tell us a little bit more about what you mean by that?
Yes. When somebody has so much structure that if a wrench is thrown into their day, they just have an absolute breakdown, that's not a good thing. Because if you deal with humans or if you deal with technology, you know that your day is never going to go to plan. But then on the opposite end of the spectrum, if you just go with the flow all the time, then you never really have any kind of plan of what you're trying to do, and it will take so much longer to get where you want to go, if you even know where you want to go. Well, Bruce Lee, he said that we need to be water, and that basically means that we have to change our shape or our form and mold ourselves to the circumstances around us. So it's good to have some kind of structure and start your days with some kind of routine, but at the same time, you have to be able to go with the ebbs and flows of life and be able to adjust as necessary to still reach the goals that you want to attain.
And one of my favorite chapters in the book was the one about the discomfort that comes when we try to make new changes and how easy it is to go back. You say it's human nature to stay in a groove, even a bad one, because we've become comfortable in those ways. And you go on to say that it's important to make room for that discomfort and even to celebrate the discomfort when it shows up. So will you talk a little bit about the role of discomfort in implementing some of the ideas that you offer in your book?
Discomfort, we're trained from a very young age. We're trained that discomfort is not a good thing, and so you should want to avoid any kind of discomfort. You know, it starts with the clothes that we wear. Is that comfortable or not? And the shoes that we wear, are they comfortable or not? If they're not comfortable, we're supposed to do away with them. But when it comes to our habits, we tend to shy away from anything that is discomfortable, but the thing is, when you are going through change, there is going to be discomfort because you are doing something different. It's not your normal routine. It's not your normal pattern. It's not your normal way of thinking. So therefore, if it's not a part of your norm, there is going to be that discomfort. And so that's why it's so important to be prepared for that when you are about to enter a change, whether it's for your New Year's resolution, or you decide while listening to this radio show, I am going to use my time better. When you decide to make that change, it's really important that you also realize, in addition to physically doing things differently and mentally thinking differently about how you approach life, you are also going to feel differently inside, because it's going to feel awkward at first, but it's okay. And if you feel that awkwardness, you want to celebrate it because it means that you are changing.
Yeah, and then it's so hard to remember when you're in that discomfort, because it's easy to, I love how you're bringing consciousness and awareness to it, because it's easy to forget that in those times in our lives when we do eventually push through that and we have a big breakthrough, it feels so good on the other side.
Mm-hmm, most definitely. And what's the old saying that it takes anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks to establish a new habit? There might be discomfort for that long because you're going through those changes. But once it becomes a habit, it will feel like second nature, and that discomfort will eventually subside.
Yeah. Let's go into some of the specific ideas that you offer in the book. I've really been enjoying the 3+3 technique as an alternative to long to-do lists that are hard to make your way through. Will you tell us how that works?
When I see to-do lists that are miles long, I get it. I have a master to-do list with a whole bunch of tasks and projects that I'd like to get done. But the trouble happens when people try to operate on a daily basis from that monster to-do list. Then they feel like they haven't gotten anything done at the end of the day. They're not worthy. They're worthless because they haven't accomplished what they set their minds to. But if we operate from that really long list, we are setting ourselves up for failure from the beginning because it's not humanly possible to usually finish those miles-long lists. And that's why I brought in the 3+3, so you can just focus on the top 3 priorities for your day. Now, do we have a lot of things to do, more than 3 things? Yes. But the thing is, there are usually only a few things that are absolutely critical to finish that very day. So those are what your top 3 are for. So if your cage gets rattled, if things don't go according to plan, your brain already knows these are the top 3 things I need to bring my focus back to so I can make sure that I get stuff done. And then the +3 is so that, just in case things go wrong because you're working with humans or technology, you can go into the +3, so those would be your next 3 priorities lined up. If you can't finish something from one of the top 3, you can still make progress that day. Instead of working on low-hanging fruit, you are working on the next priorities in line. Or if the opposite happens, like all the stars align and you finish those top 3, you can actually get ahead in life by starting, after celebrating, of course, starting on your next 3 priorities so you can give yourself a little padding for the future.
Yeah, and let's jump ahead to celebrating, because I love your focus in the book about celebrating our wins. And you say that it's important at the end of the day to take time to do that, both the small and big things, and also to be grateful for what we have in life. So I love the focus on the positive there. Will you tell us more about that?
Usually when I ask somebody how things are going, especially if this is a client situation, not just a friend, that client will start rattling off a list of everything that went wrong for the day and everything they didn't get done from their list. And I started to realize this pattern and thought, oh my goodness, what a terrible way to live where you are never giving yourself credit for everything that you get done, because we tend to gloss over that and focus on the negative. So that's why I feel like celebrations at the end of every single day are so important, because if you don't give yourself a pat on the back, nobody else will. It's very rare when somebody else gives us accolades. So you need to start with yourself, and giving yourself that pat on the back is motivational because you think, wow, I did it. I got these things done. Even if it was something unplanned, you still got it done. The point is, it is done. So that helps set your mind frame for the next day, because you're feeling more confident, you're feeling more secure about what you can do, and that will help you stay motivated throughout the next day to get things done. So celebrating is just so critical, and plus we want to start to develop that desire to chase these actionable, measurable, realistic goals. It's kind of like being addicted to our phones for those of us who have that problem. You're addicted to that hit of dopamine that you get whenever you see a notification pop up and you think, oh my gosh, somebody actually liked something that I'm doing on social media. Well, we want to change that addiction to the phone to the addiction of wanting to celebrate those wins at the end of the day, because you're going to crave them more and more and more, and that will help you become more successful.
So great. And it goes right along with a gratitude practice, like an accomplishment practice.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and
I like that. And then tell us about, you say that it's good to schedule 2 half-day CHOP sessions per month. Yes. What's a CHOP session?
CHOP is an acronym for crap, highly hay, odds and ends, and piddly stuff. It's basically all those little things that have built up over time, and they stay on your to-do list forever, and they never get crossed off because they are not the highest, most critical priority that really needs to get done. So if you can build in those half-day CHOP days whenever you can to just clear out some of that underlying brush, so that way it's not just living in your subconscious in the back of your brain, swirling around and blocking all the good thoughts that you need to have for your planning and the projects that you have coming up. So having a CHOP day where you don't answer the phones, you don't answer email, you just have some uninterrupted time to clear a bunch of stuff off your plate, it does wonders for your mind.
And then also kind of along the same lines is the mind liberation exercise. Tell us about that one.
So many of us have all of this mental clutter just swirling around up there in our brains, and that is preventing us from making better decisions about anything in our life, and especially better decisions about how we use our time. So when we do a mind liberation, that's where at the end of the day, if you want to do it at the end of the workday, that's fine, or definitely before you start getting ready for bed, you want to empty out your mind of everything that's swirling around up there. So it might be to-dos that you thought of that you need to do next month, or maybe something that you forgot to do 3 days before and it just popped into your head. So you get all of that out of your mind onto a sheet of paper or a digital document, however you want to capture it. And it just clears your mind so that way you have room for thinking. And for folks who have trouble sleeping, if you do this in the evenings instead of the mornings, you might find that you get a better night's sleep because you're clearing out your mind and you're not worried about as many things because you've already captured them before crawling into bed.
Yeah. And some of the other advice you offer, I thought I'd just go through a few different ones in the time we have left. Is to turn off all electronics at least 30 minutes before going to bed.
Yes, because according to neuroscience studies, our brains are activated by electronics. So if you use your cell phone, your smartphone as your alarm clock, you may want to think about getting an old-fashioned alarm clock because those electronics keep us awake at night.
And then another piece of advice is to set a timer for 15 minutes to help you stay focused on a task at hand.
Yes, timers are wonderful, whether it's the timer on your phone or an old-fashioned egg timer. By having that timer sitting in front of us, we realize, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be working on right now, and it helps the brain zero in. Now, for folks with ADD or ADHD, or even if you're not diagnosed with letters, you just don't have a long attention span, you can lower that to, say, 7 minutes to start off with until you figure out where your prime attention span is, and then you can go ahead and raise it to 10 or 12 or 15 minutes. But just working in those short spurts, as short as 7 minutes even, is far better than trying to multitask or allowing yourself to get interrupted throughout the day.
Great. And you also say that it's important to tidy up our workspaces before we go home for the day.
Yes, because when you walk in the next morning, it is such a wonderful feeling to walk in and see a clear desk. Even if you know it's going to turn into a mess in an hour because you're going to have all of your work spread all over it, psychologically, you walk in a better mood and ready to take on the day compared to walking in and seeing an office that's a jumbled mess, because right away your shoulders start to sag and subconsciously you're thinking, oh my gosh, I have to work in this. So it is just absolutely helpful to clear your entire desk off. You can have a couple of stacks of things, but just not papers and office supplies spread all over so you can't even see the top of your desk. Make sure that you're able to see some open space when you walk in the morning.
Yes, that's a good one. And then also to turn off message indicators on your iPhone, tablet, and computer.
Yes, because every time our brain is interrupted and switches over to another task, we lose anywhere from 30 to 90 seconds of brain restart time. So if your indicator is on and it's dinging at you or it's buzzing or humming at you, then it has just interrupted your brain from what you're doing, and you're going to switch over to see what's on that device. And according to a cell phone company out in California who will remain nameless, they did a study of how many times adults unlock their phones to check their messages or check their notifications. And the average was 110 times per day. So just right there in brain restart time, you're losing 110 minutes. So I'm not suggesting that you never check email or text messages or social media. What I'm suggesting is that you check when your brain is ready. So if you want to check that device in 7 minutes when your timer goes off, then go for it. But at least your brain is not being interrupted throughout the entire day.
Yeah, so you use the term Pavlovian, right? You see it and you go to it, and that can become a really bad habit.
Very bad.
Yeah. Let's see. We have just a couple minutes left, so I have a couple more questions. But I also wanted to, one other suggestion that really stuck out to me was to complete your least liked tasks at the beginning of the day.
Yes. Because when we save them until the end of the day, that is a minor form of procrastination. And then when it's time to work on them at the end of the day and we don't want to do it at all, well, you're in full procrastination mode. So if you know that there's something that is irritating you, or there is just something unpleasant about a task that you have to do, go ahead and get it done as soon as you can, the earliest part of the day, because not only will you get a task off your plate, you can cross it off your list, but also subconsciously you are not worried about doing it 2 or 4 or 8 hours later. It's not gnawing at you, because all that gnawing is going to slow you down throughout the day and you're not being productive by avoiding it.
It's like going to the gym in the morning for me.
Yes. So you're not dreading it the whole day.
Yeah. And then beating myself up because I need to do it and I don't want to do it. It's so nice to get it out of the way first thing.
Yes. Right on.
Yeah. So we have about a minute or so left. And so my last question is, I'm curious what you would say the most important thing or things for someone who's feeling completely overwhelmed by all they have to do is what's the most important thing for them to know?
I want you to know that once you take a deep breath and take a step back and decide what your priorities are, you will begin to have an easier time telling your time what to do. Because time management is truly all about mind management. It's not about clocks. It's not about calendars. Yes, those are helpful tools, but the most critical tool is your brain. And once you get that brain focused, there is all the hope in the world for you.
I love it. And I'm so grateful to you for, I really have been implementing a lot of these ideas and trying them out. And I really appreciate in the book how you say that some things for me work great and there's only certain tweaks I need to make. So it's not a one size fits all, but you just have given such a comprehensive system for us to follow. And I'm really grateful for that.
Well, thanks, Kim. I'm excited to hear that. I love bringing peace to the world.
Yes, thank you. And as the Inefficiency Assassin, I love that.
Exactly. How contradictory, but it works.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And for more information about Helene Segura and the Inefficiency Assassin, you can visit her online at helenesegura.com, where you'll find time management planning templates, research by neuroscientists that support many of the ideas we've talked about today, and more. It's Helene Segura, HeleneSegura.com. And I'd also like to invite you to join the New World Now podcast community on Facebook, where you can be a part of discussions about current episodes and stay up to date on the latest and greatest podcast news. Simply search for New World Now podcast on Facebook to join the group. I'll hope to see you there and look forward to connecting on future episodes of New World Now.
Thank you for listening to New World Now with Kim Corbin from New World Library. New World Library publishes books and audios that inspire and challenge us to improve the quality of our lives and our world. For more information about their books and authors, you can visit them online at newworldlibrary.com.